and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers and all you lovers of life out there. So welcome to this Eclipse Gateway activation of the Golden Arc. And as I was meditating today on the day of the eclipse, and I'll explain a little bit later on how we can use this activation, because it's not just for the day of the eclipse. This is an archway that's being built, and this is what helps us to activate this energy of translation or precipitation of higher divine, higher dimensional light into our physical earth plane at this time. So I was meditating and I received this activation, which is the building of this higher structure so that this liquid light of the golden essence can start pouring through and start to be embodied on the earth plane side. So I wanted to say that just before I went out to meditate, I actually was pulling in oracles from the Lightworker Oracle, and actually what came through was that the promise of the golden light. And as I said to meditate, I started to channel the energy. This is what came through, and this is what we're gonna do today as an exercise to give you a little bit of that insight or initiation into that activation. So you can use this at any time. As you can see, I'm recording this right on the day of the eclipse, but you know, there's a process before you can record it and put it online. Always was a little bit of lagging behind, and it's kind of hard to always do this in real time, but we are connected through this crystalline grid, and it works through the entire time, and we've already established this, a lot of us. So my role as the creation pillar, which is never an easy task, it's quite challenging, and people always see a very tiny percentage of what I have to go through in terms of when these energies start to activate on the planet. For example, at this time, my belly started refusing food, and I could not digest food for like 3 days, and I knew it was something to do with the eclipse. And at first, you know, this old thought came out like, okay, something's wrong and we're not, you know, eliminating properly and it doesn't want to digest. But then this new vision was presented to me, which is very simple, and it's just trusting the body through life force, which is the body at this time does not want to have additional food stimulative because it's already being stimulated by so much of these higher energies, and it has to process so much of that which comes out as the old. And as a creation pillar, like I said, my role is always to establish the pure crystalline codes of light within the distorted matrix patterns, so that the real establishment can then go and travel through these ley lines and the grids that, you know, occurs through the gatekeeper's path. And those who are gatekeepers do that, and then the light workers help to spread that along among the people. That's a great divine structure that's at play here, and let us not forget this, that this is a great divine orchestration. So I wanted to also say as a preview what divine dispensation of energy is, because people still don't understand this. So at certain times when the frequency is, when the alignment will be very proper, and this is not just the eclipses or solstices, sometimes certain other gateways as well. Sometimes it will be a certain non-specific day, but I will be shown through spirit that divine dispensation is happening. And I'll share this with you on my page or, you know, my videos. Divine dispensation is when light comes through unfiltered. So it's that pure source light, which at that time when you can feel it, it's like the ultimate experience of bliss. And this is when we usually know, wow, divine dispensation is starting to pour through. And sometimes it has to do with the alignment, celestial alignment. Sometimes it has to do with the critical mass we're reaching, and we've established a new, it's actually both ways. So divine dispensation comes when we've activated enough light quotient as a group of beings. So Cosmic Masters, Starseeds, Light Emissaries, we're doing this together, and we're always within a group effort. So this is what I wanted to mention first as a preview to the activation we will do, so you have a bit of the understanding what's happening, what's being played out. And we're always within a larger group formation framework. Even if it feels in a physical sense we're alone, okay, I'm here doing this mission, I'm a pillar. Sometimes it's hard as just me, and it's actually not just me. I'm giving you one perspective from my own creation mission. So it's always a greater group of unison of beings, and when we start to think of ourselves as alone or lonely, we forget the bigger picture. we don't always see from our earth body vessel perspective what's happening at large. And I'm being shown that a lot of us have had amazing energetic stimulations of light, that we've caused such ripples that we can't see always on the physical level. So this is something very important to note here. But also I was shown that a lot of people think they need to join physically at these important gateways. You can do that if you have a group of beings that can work within a unity field. If not, it's better not to, because then the energy flow will not be so harmonious. It will actually do the opposite of creating a unison framework and field of that divine light, which will travel through the crystalline grid. And sometimes it will be more telepathic union, which will be within a greater group of service, selfless service beings, light beings that you belong to, and then spread among the greater group of humanity, which we belong to now. Even the volunteer souls, we're still a part of the group of humanity. The third thing I want to mention is that sometimes people, what's happening now, they're calling it different names, and I've heard different things like plasma light, plasma energy. I'm just calling it the crystalline, the liquid. I call it the liquid light, and I think the liquid light is very much the same as when people call it the plasma energy. I don't use such fancy words, if you notice in my videos, the new age terms or the very metaphysical terms, because there's a lot of people watching who don't know these things. And when they hear things like plasma, they go like, what is that? You know, they think of plasma TV or something. I call it liquid light. So you can imagine it like the very pure, high vibratory essence of light that is just more potent, means it's a higher refined frequency. So when you look at the sun, right, and sometimes you're bathing in the sun and you're actually, you're solar charging yourself, right? You're not just sunbathing in this old way, like, okay, I want my skin to be brown, right? You're actually exposing yourself to sunlight because you're like charging yourself. You're like a liquid light that's infusing in its battery power, and you're increasing in the battery solar power. So plasmic energy is just like a higher vibratory energy expression, which now is available to us on this planet, and it helps to sustain our physical bodies so that they're more crystalline based. It's very simple. We don't need to complicate with these things in terms. So you can call it plasma energy, you can call it the plasma new crystalline formation. It's about the DNA activation. And I was shown the golden light. And if you remember back in the beginning of the month when I shared my Eclipse update, when I shared my Ascension update and Galactic update for this month, I told you that Spirit is calling this the golden eclipses. So on this day of the actual solar eclipse, which is the most important one and the most potent one for what's changing at this time, not just physically, because that's a result of the light gateway we're actually establishing as you know, the beings of light who hold a specific light quotient that's necessary for each level of outpouring of divine light coming, you know, it's like reaching us as we're reaching up to it as a divine dispensation. So divine dispensation, you can call it an act of grace, but it's because we've prepared, we've readied ourselves for that act of grace. We are open to that liquid light source. So you can visualize the liquid golden light, and that's what we're going to do today in this activation. I'm going to show you in a very quick exercise. I was shown how this works, and a lot of you, you're already plugged into that. So you might think, well, that alignment of the earth, the moon in between, and then the sun, which we call the solar eclipse, which happens at the new moon, because it's always correspondence happening here. You might say, well, that only functions then. No, the gateway, the archway is built. And it's not just for this particular, that's when the alignment is at the strongest, it's at its pivot point, but we continue to charge and to hold that light, which will come in more and more, okay? So I wanted to say that for us to visualize or envision liquid light, we can visualize it as almost like waves of water, but instead of water, it's like a plasmic energy of this golden. It's kind of like if you can imagine like a very pure water that has golden crystals, like golden particles of light in it. Either way, or just initiating the word plasmic energy or liquid light essence, that's what you're working with, and that's what we're actually opening up to. That's the third thing. The last thing I want to mention before we start the exercise is that I've just shared a post about this today because it's so important. A lot of you, when these gateways happen, it's a lot of the old is being, it's like surging back up to the surface. It's resurfacing. And at those times, the confusion levels of the old or the patriarchal, you know, framework or template or paradigm, whatever you choose to call it, are really coming up strongly. So at those times, that push and pull energy of the old that is still in resistance, that does not want to invite in the new way of being, because the new light mastery, the new earth mastery, the new human mastery, that's all the same. That's the mastery of this pure spirit life force, the Holy Spirit union with life, so that this higher stimulation of this liquid light pours out through you. That's the higher crystalline DNA formation. And I've created a crystalline DNA activation for the new human, as well as I have a mini audiobook on creation, crystalline creation levels. So that's all created to stimulate this higher divine DNA blueprint memory within you, so that you can access this new essence. Because a lot of people think, well, I'm going to cling on to the old just a little bit longer, but it's never going to be fully embodied within us until we still cling on to the old system. So what is this old system? The old is the perspective that was taught. It was imbued even. It was manipulated. It was distorted into the human DNA, which was embodying only one side of the polarity, which was you have to go out and do and achieve for you to materialize, for you to manifest. And a lot of people, even in the New Age circles, whatever you are, you can be spiritual and still do that. You can be a spiritual being, is how you perceive yourself, right? You're opening to spirit and intuition and meditation, and you're still within the old framework. It doesn't make a difference. The new framework is the fully surrendered, illumined human. There is no in-between. There's bridging, there's gapping process that's created, and it's timeless. Whenever you're ready, you're hopping aboard this vessel, right? This activation. But it is required for us to let go of that, which tells us there's only one part of the equation, the human doing. It's like you always need to pursue outside of you. You need to have these goals. You need to pursue things. You need to create outside of you. And a lot of the laws of manifestation, how we manifest, and we need to go out there and do things and be there in order to meet someone or to have something come to us, that's the old framework. And it was manipulated into the human structure as only one side of the story. So as you know, the human DNA spiral was the helix of the DNA. It was so distorted that for eons and eons of time, it just functioned on this one side of life. And now with this resurgence of light, humanity is going like, wait a minute, this is not that. And those of you who are volunteer souls who understand this, who come as fully androgynous and united within yourself, within your core, you will still experience sometimes these resets or upsets of energy when you will feel confused. Because let me tell you this, and it's from my own experience and perspective, that to carry this light of illumination in this world of creation that can be very dense, still prone to lots of darkness and lots of confusion out there that's meant to stimulate the lower self, not merging with the higher self, so that there's constant distortion through feeling of separation created. It can be challenging because especially when these gateways pull that all of the old up to the surface, we will feel it. And at those times of these strong gateways, we might be confused as well. Although you're very energetically strong, you did your inner work, you're always doing your inner work. It's not a stopping, you know. It's a constant refinement of your frequency. But it still comes up, and at these powerful times, then people say, well, the energy of the new is so intense. I always tell you, the new energy is not intense, it just is, and it's pure divine light. But what's intense is that which comes to the surface, and if you're resonating with what I'm saying, is because you understand this within yourself already. Because there's a lot of people who are in the new age that don't know that. They think the new energy is intense and it creates all these symptoms. The symptoms are created because the old is leaving, and because you're still resisting it. They're created because of the resistance levels, and it depends, you know. Some of us have lower resistance levels, some people have higher, and they're clinging on to the last vestiges. Because I was tuning into this energy today, how this distortion, how this confusion feels like, and it can feel like you wanting to be here and there and do this and that, and it creates so much distortion within yourself that you feel yourself as these separate selves that each want to have their own agenda and they're being pulled in different directions. But that's not the unified self. But sometimes for those of us who are here as volunteer souls, we're feeling that from the outside. It's not our inner confusion. It's not like we're not an integrated being, but we're still gonna feel it because we're feeling the resistance of the world. We're feeling how much push and pull is still happening because of this higher resurgence of light. So the new light, the light that makes us illumined, is never intense. It just is. It's pure divinity. At the core, you are completely already aligned with this light. But at the level of your passageway into the new, you might still experience a lot of these levels where you still resist. When with the old self, imagine being imprinted in the system for so long. It's how you're going to manage in the new. You're afraid. You have these fears. But what if What if I won't create the life I want? How does it just come to me? Well, because we've forgotten how it is to trust life force, how it is to forget, you know, how it is to trust, we forgot, sorry, how to trust this spirit life force and become a vessel for it, and trust that our dreams are being manifested through this. And we have a beautiful Slovene author who created these books already 100 years ago or more, that were about this, that were about the predestined nature of Source living out its creation cycle, and that everything is already being self-fulfilled. But we've created all this push and pull and needing to go here and there, and that's why we create so much distortion. And we think we need to incarnate so many times and have all these delusions about it. And people who fall then, who have these perceptions, fall into the trappings of the lower fourth density, or the fourth dimension, sorry, and they become a prey, you know, to these lower trapping systems that make you reincarnate in this wheel of reincarnation instead of just choosing your incarnation at your own time, when your soul really needs something to expand into rather than having it as a belief. There's a difference in incarnation and reincarnation in terms of being a belief system that's embedded upon, and it's coming from the false matrix system that you all know where it belongs to. A lot of people have been writing about this. I don't want to go too much deep into it, and it's all out there. But I want to work with those of you who are ready, and those who will be ready. Eventually this video will always be there, to activate this higher liquid golden light. You can call it plasma, you can call it whatever you want, and to know that within this higher crystalline human DNA nature, and you can get the illumined human complete surrender and trusting this life force light activation on my webpage, on my homepage of Serapina Light. So what is important for us at this time, and this is what I'm noticing within myself the most, is losing this grip, this self that tells you you're not doing enough, you should be doing something else because you're not moving forward, something should change, I'm doing something wrong. All these thoughts are of the old. Whether you're feeling them from the collective or your own self, they're still coming from separation, because existence within the purity of life force is you already are at the place you need to be. You might have thoughts, but I want to go there and there too, but it's not 100%. And remember that thought, if something is not 100%, yes, it's a no. And there's this kind of like division thoughts coming and feeding within you, and you can either observe them and note them as the old and help to dissolve them with having pure compassion for them and the understanding of why they're there, and because it's been happening for eons of time, gets them to dissolve naturally, or wanting to work through them by force and saying something's wrong with me when I have those patterns. That's again not the right light pathway, because you're coming again from, you're trying to dissolve distortion through more distortion. That's all I'm going to say here. So don't go into that nature of self-judgment, just observe and let those things just naturally fall away. But the life force path is the path of the new human. We have forgotten about this divine mother essence of life, this divine love essence that just magnetizes things and pulls into its own vortex. Because the magnetic nature is the essence of all life. It's the womb essence, and how it just simply creates, and that which draws into its natural desire nature, not the false desire nature, which makes us think how many things we need, or need to go there and there and meet all these people, and you know, create so much karma with these entanglements that perhaps are not within the higher divine plan that's imbued within our true divine crystalline blueprint of the true soul nature that comes through our monadic presence, and then the higher levels, that's pure consciousness. So it's important for us to understand that the illumined human is not somewhere in between. It's something you choose and then you work towards it, because it's an embodiment, it's the establishment of our new evolutionary stage. It's a lot of beings of light already achieved this, and that's why we're here, giving you this knowledge to prepare you for what's coming. We already exist in this form in many you know, levels that are beyond this earth, but the earth needs this too now, and those beings who are incarnate here upon this time and they're ready, they need this. Right? But until we're still holding on to the old system and we think how much we need to always materialize things through only one side of things, through that patriarchal, or it's not even, that's just a name, that's just a word, but one side of the equation without the wholeness of how creation is. And that's why I'm working so hard to get this knowledge across, the true principles and understanding of creation, because those are the true building blocks of how universal wisdom is structured, and how it creates everything, how all functions. And when we work against it, we always create karma. Karma is not just you did something to someone, they're going to do that back to you in certain other life. No. Karma is created when we function outside of universal laws. And we don't have an understanding, so we flow with them through the life force pulse that always guides us in this beauty of life, the reverence of life, and understanding of creation principles. And to be an initiate of that is always, you know, putting us in this pot of being the pure one, being the integrated one, being the regal one, the royal one. That's true royalty, to be aligned with this, to have that imprinted within us in our crystalline DNA rather than this distorted, false matrix, manipulated or very much coagulated DNA. So I wanted to say this as a preview for those of you who perhaps have not watched so many of my videos or still need a little bit of deepening of this understanding why it is so important. Because imagine if there's still parts of you that are clinging onto the old and you think you need this and that way to manifest and this way, you won't function. You will still function, you will still create, but at a different level than the level of this greatness that the alignment with life force can create through us. And that's why I also created the mastery course called the Tantrika, the Life Force Mastery, and the Life Pulse Mastery, that is aligning you with this essence of who you truly are at the illumined level. Okay, so that's it. Let's do the exercise. We won't do the full exercise again because then the video would be too long. But I will show you what I received today. I will walk you through with words, and I recommend that in your own space, in your own time, go into this exercise. You can even use the video as a prerequisite, as an assistance manual, but try to do it. I always recommend everyone. These light exercises are just one part. Then always do it through your soul. Do it through your higher understanding. Do it through your own inner guidance system. Okay, let's begin. So the first thing we do, whether you are your own circle of light or whether you are in a group circle formation, 2 beings, 3, or a whole group of more people, when you're holding hands and you imagine being like a circuit for energy so that it flows, imagine that this creates a golden circle. This golden circle is not just a circle, but within you, within this circle framework, there's white light that's just, it's like a liquid white light that you can always see, like when you do like this with your hands, you're rotating through it, it creates a ripple effect and it flows. It's not static. It's not like just, you know, this pay-per-view board across the circle. It's flowing. It's like a fountain of youth. And you can see how this light is just simply radiating. It's meant to emanate energy. It's magnetic in nature. It pulsates. It attracts, creates anything through the spirit nature of all life. And it's always intrinsically connected to all life in creation because of that. So when you see your circle, then with the breathing technique, so breathing in and out, and each time you do the out breath, you envision your circle, your network of light, grid of light, expanding. So you're expanding, and as you do so, you're connecting with other circles, other groups of people, other light emissaries, other beings of light who are doing this work of sacred service to this planetary embodiment process and beyond. You are seeing this expanding, and together you're creating like a flower of life formation until it encompasses the whole of Earth. So out breath, wow, the whole Earth is filled with this golden, it's almost like a golden hue, a golden orb of light. It's like a hue around the Earth. And this circle that you created has a spiraling energy to it. I've recently posted a picture on my Instagram, on my Ascension Pioneers page, that has Earth changes, Earth evolutionary process, I think, message, and it has 3 spirals. So I received it twice, a day before the eclipse and today on the day of the eclipse. So it's an alignment of 3, which is Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. And it was 3 spirals, right, creating each its own ripple. So when we do that and we have the golden hue around the Earth, we then see this formation of 3 spirals forming. It's almost like you can use that card. It's in Tony Salerno's Gaia Oracle cards. It's a transformation, it's the evolutionary cycles card. You can even Google it on YouTube to find it. I think all cards are always on Google. So imagine those 3 spirals, they're all spinning, right? They're all spinning, and that golden hue of the Earth becomes also the golden hue around the Moon. and then it merges with the golden radiance of the sun that already is. It's pure electric nature. So we have the earth, this materialization, that's divine mother, this embodied nature of source that's purely magnetic, and then the sun is electric, and the moon is in between, which is the collective essence of the overshadowing where our collective consciousness is at. But we can shift this, and with our rotation of this higher liquid light, we're shifting that. So as you're seeing this golden hue around the earth and the moon, and you can also place it around the sun, but the sun is already illuminating. What you do is now the next stage in your creative envisioning, your diamond eye, your inner eye of purity, you see this creating a tube of light that connects this, the earth, moon, the sun. And we will call this the golden arch, the golden archway. And this tube of light now is a direct source to that energy, can be now translated through our activation. And we see ourselves as this golden being of light that stands on earth. We might see ourselves from this greater perspective as only one tiny spectacle, one tiny light particle, but we're important. And you can even zoom in to who you are, and you're standing on earth doing like this. You're like receiving or inviting the energy, you're initiating the energy to come forth, because it's important. Because what's happening on the outside layers of Earth's auric field, or it's, the Earth's aura, exactly, atmospheric aura, it has to also happen within. That's why we're here. We're the grounded ones, we're the embodied ones. And now we envision, we're doing like this, we're aligned within this arch and this golden tube of light. But we also see, as the light is going to start pouring through, you will see we're going to put golden roots in the earth, because we're also doing the work so within the embodiment, the groundedness can take place. So the whole earth can be a golden globe, completely precipitated with this higher light. So as we do this, as we establish the arc, we see this as the sun has its own black hole, has its own portal, vortex into higher dimensions. All of a sudden, as this arch is built, see it opening. And now this goes like this, like your hands did like this, right? This V-shaped. And this is an infinite opening to this higher light. And once you see this, you can see it like a sieve, you know, the sieve you use to get water through, or the sand starts to pour through. And you can visualize now, at this point, you start visualizing this massive amount of pure, unfallen or undistorted, without filters, completely benevolent, pure liquid golden light or plasmic energy, just sifting through. It's coming, being embraced by the sun through the solar light, the solar logos, and moving through this golden arch that's being built, it's being created through the eclipse gateway, but it's being held on all levels all the time simultaneously. It's beyond linear time framework. That's why you can do it and use this exercise at any time, because you're creating this arch. Whether the moon is there or not, it's always first as in spirit essence. As an energetic template, you're helping to co-create on the planet and beyond. So you see now this outpouring of this multidimensional energy, and it's just pouring through, and it's like waves and waves of this golden liquid light pouring through. And you now, as the vessel, you're standing like this. You can see yourself, or you can feel yourself now in your body. It doesn't matter. It's just intention. You're initiating this. You see this coming through your body, and as it does, it touches every chakric level, touches all the meridians. It completely infuses you, and you're all gold and golden. And then you put those golden roots into the earth, and then paint with this golden light. Visualize it. Paint all of the earth as gold from the core, and it's being done on the outside through this precipitation of light. And from the core, you're doing it as the grounded one, and feel your importance. Through ego personality, but feel your spiritual importance at this time to be here, to be infusing this realm with so much light. I know there may be challenging times, difficult times for all of us. It's not always all roses and peaches, you guys, you know that. I don't share lots of things that are happening in my journey, because they're mine, and they're my initiations. But please let me tell you, it's not an easy path. The path of the spirit initiate, and the being who's here to volunteer, to really work with the aspect of light, to bring it and to carry it within all this darkness. You can bring it, but to carry it on all levels, to be shining amidst all of that, can be scary and frightening at times. But the fear is telling you, I gotta hold on, or because I need to create something like this and this way and the old way, otherwise nothing will be done. You can't see from the higher perspective how many ripples of light you're already creating and how much movement we've together as one group being we've already established. And it's not about, okay, I'm the pillar, then these the star seeds, and there's those. It's like it's a hierarchy in a way. No, it's a system of light that functions because the source sent all of its functions so that they can all cooperate, and each one has its own specific task. That's all that it's about. I have my tasks, I have my duties and responsibilities, and you might have your own, but they're each synonymous. They're all worth the same. None is better or more worthy, of greater importance. It's just perhaps be a different scope of channeling energy, but it's still one. It's one purpose, it's one directive. And through us being more open, we're creating more ripple effects, so we get greater divine dispensations. Divine dispensation cannot come if we're not open for it. Who's going to watch us over with so much light if we're saying no? So we, the volunteer souls, we're building this yes. We're inviting this so that it can come, and that's where we're so necessary here on the planet. And I know a lot of the people don't want to always be here. I don't want to always be here, and it's natural to feel this way at times. But we always get motivated through working with the aspect of light. Light gets us to align with our source, and we know our path because the life force is telling us where to go, how to move the energy, and it always will show you. When you pray, when you ask for the higher intention to be placed within you, because you already know it. It's just that sometimes the mind, when it's feeling these upsurges of resistance coming up, it's telling you otherwise. You don't have to listen to that mind. You don't even have to negate it. Just pay attention to it, observe it, witness it, thank it for its messages, but then go and follow the highest light force that wants to flow through you. And each time there will be less resistance and less, and you'll be softening yourself. And that's what the golden light does. It softens us. It makes us like we truly are, open to the laws of creation, open to being the universe within ourselves first, and then experience the universe on the outside and be the majestic emanation of grace that we're always meant to be. And this light is, of course, remember, of multidimensional scope of being, of existing. I see so many things of the old system still being here, and a lot of people who are calling themselves spiritual teachers but are still teaching the old framework, and it's dogmatic, and it's only about reading the Bible and quoting the Bible and Bible thumping. We can't find this knowledge in the scriptures. And I recently saw someone who's a very influential figure who's saying, well, the New Age people are doing this way and that's wrong because it's how it is in the Bible and it's how it was taught by Jesus. And we shouldn't call Jesus Joshua or Sananda. And I would almost go like, oh gosh. Sorry guys, sometimes when I hear things like that, I literally go like this. And I know everyone is where they are. And you can be like this, you can have your own beliefs, but don't try to infiltrate that between the people and imbue them with your own beliefs, because in truth is multidimensional, and all of these perspectives, one example is Joshua, Jesus, Sananda, these are all different aspects of one being. Like we have different aspects, like I'm Polona, I'm Aurea, I'm also Serapina. These are my different aspects of the self, and that's the multidimensional perspective. And when you're in the linear perspective, which says my truth and this way and only this way is right, and that's how the Lord wants us to be, and all the other things are wrong, and the New Agers are wrong, and that's wrong. I've mentioned myself many times the New Age, but I didn't say it's wrong. It's a perspective. You might outgrow this perspective because it feels, oh, it's kind of teenager based. Okay, but doesn't mean now what you will gain through maybe another perspective is now right and this was wrong. It's different aspects of how we experience, and they're all necessary. Perhaps you need something while others don't, and vice versa. But don't teach people things of the old system and say, well, you know, I'm a spiritual teacher, because you're gonna actually imprint all of those beliefs onto others who maybe are your followers, and they're gonna go yes, and it's a massive manipulation. I call it a mass sleepness, the mass insomnia. And someone might be an influential figure, and all the people who look up to them will go, yeah, it must be true because that person said it, instead of thinking and feeling with their own higher dimensional self. And that always gets me angry, because I don't mind people having their own beliefs and opinions, even if they're very limited in a way. They're like this. They don't see the higher multidimensional perspective, which is all perspectives are correct in their own way. And there is one truth that unifies. And when you understand all, you will slowly come into the unified truth of one. And that's who you truly are. And that's what I serve. It's the unified truth. And the unified truth does not exclude. It sees all as aspects of source that are learning, growing, evolving. But then there's also the unified truth. But that truth is never dogmatic and doesn't tell what's wrong and what's right. It doesn't tell people what to do or what to believe. And that's, for me, those people, even though they're influential or they might have good intentions, they're just imprinting people with more of that, with more of the old. And I remember reading the Vivamus books, and I really resonated when he said in one of the paragraphs that the old teachers will have to go, but that a lot of them are clinging on, and they don't want to leave the earth plane because they got really comfortable here at a certain point, but they need to leave because it's time for the new teachers, because earth is shifting, and she's ready to receive these new teachers of light. And I am one of them, and there's a lot of people I know, and there's a lot of young ones, and we're here. And sometimes we're misheard because we feel too new, but people have to start opening up if they want to be a part of this new system, which does not separate into this or that. You know, I always, when I see people who are like, just the Bible and there's nothing else, and my truth comes through these scriptures because these people said it, and it's in those words, you can't get the truth from scriptures. You can read, but you can't get the truth from the scriptures. That's the difference. The truth is within, it's imbued within your light DNA. And when you start opening up, you will get more and more of that, more codes, more understanding, more multidimensional. Oh, it all fits. Things just fitting together, and you will see, wow, it's all always been one. It's just different perspectives. I don't tell people what to do because I'm a multidimensional being of light. I'm a sovereign. I teach through my own example, through my embodiment, but I don't distort things. I don't mislead. I follow the truth. Okay, guys. I love you so much. I hope this helped you in some way to find that core within yourself. Use the exercise. It's very important at this time. I will use it myself many times. And I wish you such a beautiful time. The eclipse is always a lasting effect. It's an experience that's, it's rewriting us. It's like a recalibration that, you know, it's like from 6 months to sometimes even a few years that's an ongoing. And this was a big one. So we're calling for this liquid golden light of the golden eclipses. We're thanking all life in creation for making this possible for all of us. And we are here together, even though we might feel apart at times. And that's just how it is at this time. So thank you so much. If you want to support my work, all the links are down below. But you can always get these light activations on my courses that can help to sustain this. And I truly recommend the Tantrica Life Force Mastery course because it is the step. It's the new human. It's the new being of light that functions through life force and creates from within, through the inner envisioning, and then creates from without. I greet you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Have a beautiful eclipse experience.